Chapter 63. The McGorkles arrive home in Oconomowoc at 9:42 p.m. Mary grabs a flashlight and goes outside to check on her begonias. Warble begins to work the phones. He's got a lot of alliances to forge, coalitions to coalesce, and paperwork to perform. He wishes the bullfrog were still with him. "That ingrate," he mutters. "Just because I deferred his salary and haven't paid him yet, he wasn't even loyal enough to stick with me through thick, thin, paper thin, and sharkskin thin. You just can't get good help nowadays." By midnight, Warble has acquired a very powerful ally in the state senate, Whortleberry Dane, the head of the DCB-BFC, Department of Cheese, Beer, Brats, and Frozen Custard, Wisconsin's widest-ranging and most powerful political entity. Dane has had a falling out with the current governor and is willing to use his connections to help Warble unseat the incumbent by any means necessary. To make a long story short, Warble wins his party's nomination with the greatest of ease. Making the race completely unfair for all comers, Warble even goes beyond his original fail-safe campaign pledge. Besides securing the right of each resident to see all the Packers games he or she wants without being harassed by heartless employers, Warble stacks the deck by also promising to clean up the whole state of the ubiquitous goose dung by which it is plagued. Warble's solution? Anesthetization of all geese, followed by fitting them with diapers. This will not only make Wisconsin more pleasant for walking barefoot in the parks, it will also make it easier on the nose and provide employment for thousands. Warble's campaign slogan is, "You have a right to say no to working on a Triple H, and a more pleasant Wisconsin via a diaper on every goose." Warble's rallying cry could stand to be catchier, but once his constituents understand the issues, Warble's opponent is only there to make it interesting. Although supremely confident of his ultimate victory and vindication, Warble doesn't want to rest on his laurels or let sleeping dogs lie. He'll be the one to do the lying, thank you very much. So, following Whortleberry's advice and his own instincts, Warble goes on the offensive. In accordance with the race for governor being referred to as a gubernatorial race, Warble challenges the incumbent to a goober-eating contest. He explains to Mary, who is confused by the need for such an engagement, that the word gubernatorial is a combination of goober and notorial. A goober is a peanut, and notorial means something that goes on the inside, as opposed to equatorial, which refers to something on the outside, or the surface, such as the equator, which is on the surface, not under the surface of the earth. Thus, Warble concludes patiently, and he thinks logically, gubernatorial refers to the old political tradition of a peanut-eating contest. The winner of this manly sporting event secures for himself the governor's post, and the loser must sweep up the shells. Somehow I can relate to and thus empathize with the loser, Mary says. Warble is not overly or overtly sympathetic. "That's because you need to brush up on your entomological skills," he bluntly reprimands his wife. "If you were able to deduce the meaning of words by breaking them up into their component parts, you could use this knowledge to get a leg up on your competition. Everyone else on earth, that is." The day of the gubernatorial contest finally arrives. With Whortleberry Dane at his side playing the part of the disinterested and impartial observer, who also happens to be slated to serve as the referee of the conflict, Warble is sitting imperiously on stage as the incumbent arrives. In a hurry, as the seminar on cheese curds and cream puffs he had just attended had run a little overtime. Warble and the incumbent shake hands. Warble is surprised at how short the current governor is. He looks taller on television. The incumbent is surprised at how tall Warble is. He had, on reading his speeches and campaign promises, pictured him as a quite small man. Warble suddenly sits down on his stool next to his barrel of peanuts. At this prearranged sign, Whortleberry declares the start of the contest by vigorously ringing a cowbell. The incumbent, taken by surprise, scurries over to a stool and quite rapidly, for a man of his advanced age, begins shelling and eating peanuts. To again make a long story a little less lengthy, we'll cut to the end of the contest here. Although the currently installed governor acquits himself well, Warble wins by a landslide, literally. The incumbent shells his peanuts so quickly that he cannot see what is happening on the other side of the platform, where Warble, with a little help from his friend Whortleberry, is scarfing down peanuts which have already been shelled by a bevy of underfed, self-inflicted, and underpaid, Warble-inflicted, interns. Additionally, the pre-shelled peanuts Warble eats have been genetically altered to shrink in his stomach. The incumbent gives it his all, but in the end his pile of shells collapses on him and he is buried under the avalanche. Seeing that his plan has succeeded beyond his wildest dreams, Warble declares himself the victor of the gubernatorial contest and, after ordering the staff of the governor's mansion to throw all the incumbent's personal effects onto the lawn, calls the paramedics to look into the buried alive under a pile of peanut shells politician. Barely breathing, the broken man, in spirit that is, after receiving a thorough checkup and is determined that the only thing that is hurt is his pride, retires from politics and returns to the private sector, becoming a Wisconsin Ducks tour guide. As it turns out, though, even the governorship of the dairy state is not enough to satisfy Warble.